This video is brought to you by JohnTerilli.com, the place to go to get in shape and stay that way. There's a free trial available with no credit card required. JohnTerilli.com.
For everyone, this is Christine Charles. She is a former Miss Universe. Tell us what you've won, what business you're involved in, your family, and just a general introduction so we all know who you are.
Well, you know that I'm Chris. I like to be called Chris.
You like to be called Chris?
I'm 76 this December. I've been involved in NABA competitions since I was 15. The titles that I won was the Universe Bikini in 1972, the Miss Britain in 1973, Britain's Queen of Beauty in 1973, and amongst my better competitions, I'd like to mention that at 17 years of age, I was runner-up in the Junior Miss Britain as well, which was held at the Universe competition in Victoria Palace in London. I'm married at 18.
Yep.
I have a daughter and 3 grandsons.
And what sort of business are you involved in?
I'm involved in funeral directing.
Okay, well, that's a good business. You'll never run out of business, that's for sure.
No, we all need it at one time or another.
So you do understand what this means for me, because at 12 or 13 years of age, seeing this woman who was Miss Universe and actually showed her body, because, you know, all we were ever used to was the Miss Universe that I think Donald Trump used to run. And I'm not even sure what that was judged on, because I don't know what the rules were. So for a young boy coming into bodybuilding and not realizing really what used to go on, and then, you know, seeing the Mr. Universes and you standing next to all these bodybuilders and being Miss Universe, I'm not sure if you realize how much this means to me, because, you know, I'm now 63. So I've been watching this from probably the age of 11. You know, I saw you in the magazines, and it was mainly Health and Strength. Is that what it was called, the English magazine? You were in a lot of those, and so this is a really great opportunity for me to question someone who I actually looked up to, you know, because you were there with the best of the best. And, you know, having had something to do with Bill Pearl, some people feel he was probably the best of the best, because when I came into what's called bodybuilding, you know, I opened up a magazine and there were 3 guys. It was Bill Pearl, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Sergio Oliva. Bill beat Sergio Oliva, and it was good that Arnold probably didn't show up at that contest, because you don't know what could have happened. You know, it was probably Joe Weider that stopped him from competing in it, which was probably a good idea, because Bill Pearl looked really incredible. So I'm just reiterating what all this means to me. And, you know,
Well, Bill Pearl came back 3 times and won the Universe, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I think
Came
he
back
had,
every 5 years and won the Universe.
look, he was a really unique person, and I would have liked to have seen a contest between him and Arnold, because Bill has a lot of qualities that Arnold never had. And, you know, like I said, he was probably, when I got that bodybuilding magazine, there was a story, there was his life story on there. I think a gentleman by the name of George Coates wrote about him. And, you know, here I am talking to you so many years later. I never ever would have imagined that anything like this would have happened, that we could talk like this and I could interview you.
I'm amazed that anybody would want to listen to what I've got to say. I know that the current bodybuilding girls thought we were sort of soft and curvaceous. And I appreciate that. And albeit I appreciate that all the hard work and dedication that they have to put into what they look like, on today's standards, that wouldn't be my choice.
What I wanted to know was, what did you weigh when you competed? What do you weigh now? And would you have enough confidence to be photographed now in a bikini at your age?
I think for my age, I still look fairly good, albeit, as I said in a text to you, that I can see a decline in the skin texture.
Well,
and I think that's just getting older.
The skin on your face is immaculate, right?
Well, I tell you this, everything you see is natural. I don't have any Botox or anything like that. Everything you see is natural, and I'm proud of that.
I know many women that are a lot younger than you that actually spend a lot of money on their face and probably don't look as good as you.
Well,
And I want people of today to know what used to go on, and I actually still feel that the way you did things is the better way to do it. And I would guess that even when you were training 2 days a week, you were doing a full body workout, which really, when you look at it, that was enough. It really was enough, because when I first started training, it was the same way. I actually used to do a whole body workout 3 days a week, and that's how I won my first contest at 17 years of age. So there's a lot of things that we did that are exactly the same. And if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your training, you know, what sort of repetition range did you use? Was there a particular tempo, something that you did that perhaps is unique?
in my day, they were more spit and sawdust gyms, and the equipment was quite basic. Some of it was homemade, so we'd only sort of do basic training. I remember having to use a towel around the ankles, and someone would sit on the floor and restrict your movement. So as you can see, it was quite basic in my day.
How many days a week were you training when you started?
In those days, we'd just train 2 days a week. You'd have 3 nights a week for the men and 2 nights a week for the women, and the women didn't train with the men.
Okay, I actually worked in one of those gyms when I was quite young. So
Did you?
I understand that concept. I was an instructor on the men's days, and they didn't mix. So that's all changed now. But tell us really, like, the nitty gritty of your workout. Like, was it a whole body workout? How many sets did you do a body part? How many exercises?
We just do 3 sets of 10 of everything.
Okay.
And that was it. That was our workout.
Well, you know what? That still works today. In fact, it's probably a good basic foundation for most people to follow, because it's not complicated. And so how many exercises per body part would you perform?
I didn't even think about it in those days, to be quite honest, John. We were very, very much in a minority. We're in the minority today, but in our day, we really were in the minority. People would sort of not take well to someone who was training with weights in those days.
I understand that. And also, did you ever move away from that type of training to anything more so than that? Did you ever actually end up going to a gym where, you know, you could train whenever you wanted and it was a mixed gym? Or did you just continue doing that throughout your whole career?
Well, I stayed at my ex-husband's gym until I was 57, which was a spit and sawdust gym. I used to teach aerobics there. We also had another section where we had a youth club, and I was the assistant youth leader for 30 years, as well as the other side was the gym.
When you did do your training, were you ever conscious of, look, I'm using this much weight now and I've got to get stronger, or how did you progress? What was it?
I don't think it was until somebody like Rachel McLeish came on the scene, and I then felt that I needed to up my game.
Yes.
Because a lot of the girls that was coming on the scene then, that was going more for physique rather than the hourglass figure.
Sure.
They didn't think that we were trained girls at all, but Rachel McLeish made me think, I want to extend it a little bit more. And you can, if you look at my photographs from when I was 20, 30, by the time I was 38, I think that I was completely different to when I was in my 20s.
Well, I noticed you in one of your photos, you've got a great set of abdominals. Your waistline was obviously a feature, but also how tall are you, Christine? Or Chris, sorry.
I'm 5'7.5".
5'7.5", because with those heels you were taller than all the men. And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You also told me a story about Tony Emmett, and you texted me some colourful stories that I'm hoping you're going to cover today, because you explained to me that you weren't quite confident, and he had a word with you, and then boom, all of a sudden you won the universe.
Well, backstage, I've never been that confident. And backstage, Tony had a little pep talk with me and said that I'd got one of the best bodies on stage, but I walked on like a loser and I needed to up my game. And yes, I do credit Tony for the fact that that was the year that I won the Universe Bikini, because after that little pep talk, I must have walked on a little bit more confidence.
Okay. This confidence thing, what did you do? Did you smile more? Did you have a different walk? What was the difference? Because, that's a really good title, Miss Universe.
I think it was that I walked on with more confidence, rather than, as I said to Tony, I don't want people to think I'm a big head, or I don't want them to think, who does she think she is? And he said, well, keep walking on then like a loser and being second best. So
really, did you feel that your physique had improved, or was it just your attitude?
I think it was my attitude.
That's very interesting. As a female, were you ever criticised for working out or looked down upon? Because, back then it's not like it is today.
By the average person on the street, you would be criticised because they didn't understand the importance of keeping fit. They didn't understand weights, really.
Now, when you were explaining that you're upped your game when Rachel became prominent, what did you actually do to up the game? Was it training extra days of the week, or just taking what you did more seriously?
Whereas I was training twice a week, I upped it to 5 days a week.
So that means you went to another gym that allowed both men and women to train together?
No, sorry, when I first started at 15, we just had the one room where it was 3 days for the guys and 2 for the girls. By the time I was 21, we were given new premises under the umbrella of the local council. And to have these new premises where we could train, the girls and the boys started to train together. The other side was a youth club, which we become youth leaders by default, really, in the fact that to get the premises for the gym, we became youth leaders for the local council. So I was able to train 5 times a week.
Training 5 days a week, did you develop a split routine, or was it your whole body every day? Like in those 5 days, how many times a week?
No, it was split. Whereas, you know, we did legs one day, we would do chest and back another day, we'd do arms another day. So yes, it was split.
All right, so as an example, what would be a leg workout back in those days? What did you actually perform in sets and reps and exercises? Because these are the things that people really never ask, and I'd be interested in knowing.
I've still only ever done 3 sets of 10.
Okay, so
on any exercise.
So what was the thigh workout consisting of? How many different exercises? Was it squats, leg press, leg curls?
I would do, say, 8 different exercises in a night.
So 8 different exercises, 3 sets of each. That's 24 sets per night. And did you use the weights as a warm-up? You know, generally now, if you're going to do 3 sets, like I do, I still train that way. You know, my first set is always really light, and then the second set, you go a little bit heavier, and then by your third set, you're doing your maximum. Or did you just warm up and then do 3 working sets?
I would warm up with a few aerobic exercises, and I used to do lots of waist exercises as well.
But say you were going to do biceps, right? Would the first set of an exercise be a lighter set, or did you just go straight into your maximum weight?
It would be lighter, and then I'd increase it on the third set. Well, I'd increase it on the second set, and then increase it on the third set.
Okay, and that's 3 sets of 10. Yeah, look, very interesting, because that's how I trained, and that's how I still train now. Who got you started? Why did you start? Who got you started? Who inspired you, and who helped you in the beginning?
Well, my ex-husband, I met him at the age of 15 at the local dance hall, and he asked if I wanted to go to his gym. I went along. There was several girls that was competing at the time. They were a lot older than myself, and so they inspired me really, because I looked up to them because they were older. I didn't particularly have a hero as such, just the girls from the local gym inspired me.
Tell us about your diet. How would you eat when you weren't training for a contest, as opposed to how would you eat when you were training for a contest?
Right. When I competed, it was the days when I never even gave a thought to food, supplements or anything. I came off a big family of 7 children. It was as much to put food on the table, let alone think about supplements and diet. I was lucky. Bill Pearl and Judy, his wife, invited me to their home in Oregon, and Bill mentored me by showing me the importance of eating a good diet and taking good supplements. Could
you tell us typically what was in that diet? Was it 3 meals a day? What was your breakfast? What was your lunch?
It would be three meals a day. I know a lot of people believe that it should be 5 a day, but for me it was three meals a day.
And is that what you still do?
Yes, that's what I still do.
Yeah,
I
and
eat a good breakfast, I have a light lunch, and then I have a good, we call it tea, but I know a lot of people call it dinner.
What was your breakfast? I really want to break this down so people know exactly.
What was my breakfast when I competed?
Well, in the off season, what was your breakfast? And then as you competed,
You know, I never had an off season, John. I think it's a lifestyle, isn't it?
it is.
And to me, I've never been in the world of the ladies' physique, have I? And so I never had to diet to the extent that they do. I just maintained a good, healthy diet.
Well, what is a typical breakfast? What was a typical breakfast?
What do I eat for a breakfast now?
Well, back then, as opposed to now, it may still be the same, but like people are really interested in these questions because people usually brush over them. And, you know, to be talking to a person like yourself that still looks so good at this age, and I'm pretty sure you're going to continue doing this forever. You know, we really want to know. Break it down. Tell me what your actual breakfast is or was.
Breakfast was, I can't even remember what breakfast was when I used to compete, and that's the truth. I just know what I eat now.
Well, tell us what you eat now.
Well, I have porridge. I mix a plant protein with some cinnamon, and then I put some walnuts, and I have maybe raspberries and blueberries, and then I have some natural live yogurt with a little bit of honey.
Okay, you know what? That sounds
And my
really
bowl
nice.
is completely full.
That
I
sounds
do like my food, actually.
Well, this is why I'm asking, and you know what? I'm probably going to try that tomorrow morning because I'm sick of eating what I've been eating. No, I'm telling you the truth. I don't think you realise the information that's coming from you, how important it is, not just to myself but other people, because too many things are brushed over. You actually told us what your actual breakfast is. Now tell me your lunch, please.
My lunch,
Yes.
because I have to eat as and when I can when I'm working, and I work 9 till 5 days a week. And I have some rice cakes with some peanut butter on, and I might even put a slice of banana on it, and that's what I have. And I have a cup of decaf coffee.
What about your dinner?
My dinner is always mostly salad, good salad, and then I change whether I have chicken, fish, piece of steak, and I always have fillet steak because I don't like fatty foods. I always have fillet steak, and as I said, it would be chicken, it would be fish.
Do you take any supplements?
I do, because Bill Pearl told me that it was important to take a good multivitamin, and I do, religiously.
Is that the only supplement you take?
I take some turmeric. I do in the winter time take extra vitamin C, and that's about it.
So you just take
In
all
my
this.
cooking, I use turmeric, ginger, cinnamon.
You take all this for granted, but this really means a lot to people that don't know.
I don't know, I mean, the health industry today, there's so much information that anybody can get on the internet. Nobody needs to not know anything today. We didn't have those facilities, did we, when we started training?
I think
It
you
was
had
trial
something
and
better.
error.
You had something better. You had Bill Pearl. People go on the internet these days and you don't know who's given that information or how real it is. You know, being tutored by somebody like Bill Pearl, I would say that you were quite fortunate to be able to do that.
I was fortunate to be invited to his home for a month and train with him at his home gym, and see his wife cooking and, you know, because he's a vegetarian, isn't he? I almost think he's vegan.
Yes. When he came to Australia, it was in 1980 for the Mr. Olympia, and I remember being at a dinner with him, and he saw these little round pastries that were filled with meat, and he asked, "What are these?" And we call them sausage rolls. And I remember he had a few of those, so I knew that he was a vegetarian, and I don't know if he's gone completely vegan now, but he did eat the sausage rolls, and it probably wasn't something that he did on a regular basis.
That surprises me.
Yeah, I just think he was being nice because it looked interesting.
He's a nice guy, isn't he?
He's a really good man. He's the sort of person that you would want your son to grow up to be like. That's what I noticed of Bill. And
he's gentleman of the sport.
Yeah, we need more people like him. We need more people like you. Was he doing his regular thing of training at 3 a.m. in the morning when you were there?
Absolutely. We got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would have hot cider with cinnamon and cloves in there before he started his workout.
Okay.
And I was privy to have that drink. Very nice.
So you actually trained with him?
Yes, at his home, yes.
And see, I've never really known. I've read a few bits and pieces, and I've read his book, The Inner Universe. But training with him, did he do anything differently to what you were doing, or was it more or less the same?
Well, I don't know what his reps were and everything like that, but I was just training and doing my thing when he was training with some of his friends, local friends. Okay. And I think he was fairly impressed with the way that I trained out.
I just wanted to do this interview, especially with you, for several reasons. Number one, when I first started looking into bodybuilding, there was you standing next to all the best bodybuilders of the world at that time. And, the fact that I saw you on Facebook and saw how good you're still looking, it's really interesting for longevity. There's things that need to be passed on to the younger generation, not just for my personal interest because of how many times I saw you, but for the benefit of others, because I think you're looking quite good. And when I did see you, and the way you presented yourself on stage, they're trying to bring all this back now. It's called the bikini division. How do you see the change in female competition? Tell us what you really do see and how you think some of today's women look. Because, there's different sections, but, I wanted to get your opinion on that and be truthful. Because if you see stuff that you like, fair enough. And if there's something that puts you off, I want to hear about it, because I think everything's gone a little bit pear-shaped compared to the way things were.
Personally, I think they've taken it too far. I think when they're void of periods and things like that because they've dieted to that extent, it's not healthy. The sport should be about health as well as competing, and I think they've just taken it too far.
Look, I think you're absolutely right, because when I first started, there was a health aspect to it, and for a short period of time in my career, I actually forgot all about that. But then, when things became hard, I thought, well, remember why you started this. It wasn't just to develop muscles. You wanted to be healthy as well. I think that's totally missing today with the competitors. I think it's really important for people to understand that it always should be something that's health related. And when you finally did stop competing, at what age did you stop, and why did you stop?
I had my daughter. I stopped. I did compete in the Universe Bikini again when I was 31, and I came fourth, and I was 4 months pregnant.
Okay, I think we have that picture. Gareth was showing
and
me
that's when I stopped.
Okay, so it was family reasons. You just found something else in life that took your attention away from continuously being Miss Universe. The one thing I wanted to ask you, you won the universe, and then you went back to win the British Championships again, because I just want to know how your mind worked, because for me it was like, okay, I've won this, now I'm not going to go backwards, because you're a world champion, and then all of a sudden you must have really loved what you were doing in order to go back to the British Championships.
Well, if you think that I competed in the Miss Britain, and I came 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, I was going to go for that, I was going to go for that title. And I do believe that when I came 2nd, I should have won. And when I won, I didn't feel that I felt I was 2nd.
How do you feel about all the different female categories that they have today? They've got bikini, they've got wellness.
I think they've got a little bit lost, really, as to what they want. It's a little bit confusing, and I think even some of the girls get a little bit confused in what category they should be in.
But you know what that's all about, right? That's so the promoter makes more money, because when each division that you create, there's a fee that the competitor has to pay. So it's good in one way, that it's giving all sorts of different body shapes and people who want to take it to a different level. However, it's also a financial thing. But when was the last time you were at a contest watching?
I haven't been to a proper contest for a long time, since I was, I would say, 57, albeit my ex-husband is the president of NABA, and my daughter helps him with his competitions, and I'd got the grandchildren, and I'd got to take them back to her after she'd finished helping her dad. And I got there a little bit early, so I was able to go into the show, and so that's the only time I have been in a bodybuilding show since I was 57. I regret that I had to step back, because Jim and I, we run shows for many years together, and when I divorced, I had to step away, and that was, I had repercussions about that, because I didn't want to step away, but I had to.
All right, so it's really in your blood.
Bodybuilding is, isn't it? I'm never going to change. I'm always going to train.
Yep.
One big disappointment for me was when NABA had their 50 years celebration, and they invited all the bodybuilders, the winners, to that event. I never got an invite. And I got a phone call from John Brown, and he said, "Hey, where are you?" And I said, "At home." Well, he said, "You better get your butt up here." And I said, "No, I don't think so." He said, "Well, I'm telling you, girl," he said, "if ever I get invited again," he said, "you're not here," he said, "I'm coming to fetch you." So that was a big disappointment for me, because personal things shouldn't come into it. when they were celebrating 50 years of NABA, I felt that I should have had an invite, the same as everybody else.
Your husband, Jim Charles, would that be right? Is that his name?
That's, he's the president of NABA. And I have to say he's dedicated all his life to it. And, you know, I wish him all the luck with that, because he has dedicated his whole life to NABA and running shows. He deserves what he's got.
Look, saying what you just said, you know, you didn't get invited. I've had stuff like that happen to me, and I don't know if it's familiarity breeds contempt or why you weren't invited. But, you know, for myself, as soon as I leave Australia, whether I go to Europe or the United States, I get more attention than I've ever done in this country. So it could have something to do with that, but also not getting acknowledged. And, you know, now with all the competitors and all the different categories, you know, some people show up, they compete, and I'm not sure what used to happen in your day, but right now, like, you know, some people don't even get acknowledged. And I'm not one for giving everybody some sort of an award for doing nothing, but how do you feel about, you know, some people showing up? They make the show. They put, you know, the numbers of people that show up. If they didn't show up, the promoter and the audience would have nothing. How do you feel about not getting acknowledged, or, you know, what sort of acknowledgement do you think people, especially women, should receive in order to, I don't know, I guess we should be grateful anyway that we're capable of even getting up on there and doing what we do. But how do you feel about this acknowledgement? What do you feel that each competitor should receive, whether they've placed first or last?
Well, I think that they should get a medal to say that they have competed. But then you can't give a trophy to everybody, can you?
No, but
because otherwise, why have a first, second, and third if they're going to, you know, if the last one is going to get the same?
I agree with you totally. I just feel that even having something that says I took part in this.
That's right. So if they were given a medal to say that they, you know, so they feel valued.
You know, I totally agree with you. Christine, tell us about your dancing.
Well, when I was in my 60s, I felt that I needed something different to do. As a 15-year-old, I was a rock and roller anyway. I love my dancing. And so when I was in my 60s, I went along, and I'm now doing ballroom, Latin, sequence, dancing, and I do that 3 times a week.
Well, how long does that go for, the whole dancing thing? You're doing that 3 days a week?
Yeah, I do a class which is an hour.
Okay.
And then on a Saturday night, if there's a dance on, I would go to a dance.
So that's what you're doing now?
That's what I'm doing now. I still go to the gym. I'm never not going to go to the gym. I go to a David Lloyd's gym where, you know, the world's your oyster, where the equipment is concerned. You know, I think there's a piece of apparatus for every muscle going, isn't there, these days?
Yes.
I mean, it makes it so much easier than the spit and sawdust gym where you spend 5 or 10 minutes trying to find a weight.
Yeah, no, it is.
Sometimes.
Look, some gyms are just impossible to work out in the way they're set up, and, you know, you've got weights all over the place. And but tell me, how have things changed?
Well, I think that's how it's changed, is the fact that, you know, in our day, it was mainly homemade equipment, whereas now you've got, you know, there's nothing that there's nothing that you can't do these days. The equipment is so well made, and it's the state of the art, isn't it?
It is. That's what it's supposed to be. Did you ever experience any sort of injuries, or ever had to go through periods of rehabilitation
Yeah, I was
for anything?
squatting there once, and I missed my footing, and I had to go down on my knees, and the bar rolled over my neck, and I damaged my back. However, I still carried on training. The girl I used to train with, she used to shake her head, you know, because I used to just stand with my back up against the wall and do my curls up against the wall so that it was supporting my back. And she'd just shake her head and say, "You're crazy."
Your aerobics conditioning is obviously dancing, which is the perfect. That is the most perfect way that I think of burning body fat, because you're not doing anything excessively hard, and it goes on for an hour. So that sort of cardio, the fact that you're still doing resistance training, and the fact that you still eat so well, it really sounds like, you know, you were just a regular bodybuilder. The things that you're talking about, I've experienced all of them. So there's a lot of familiarity in what you're talking about. The other thing I did want to ask you is, what next for you? You know, whatever it is in your life, because in some of the texts I thought, she's already giving me so much information. We're probably both going to be nervous on the day, and we're going to forget a lot of this. So there was something that you mentioned that I totally forgot, but at the time I found interesting. I'm not going to try and turn my phone on and scroll back to see, but there was something that you said that you take part in the community. It was, I couldn't even remember what it was, but I remember glancing over and I said, wow, you know, she's involved in a few different things. And, you know, if you could just elaborate on anything like that, and what you feel you're going to be doing next.
Well, I have involved myself in a lot of things. I've worn a lot of hats in my time. As a 15-year-old girl, I only ever worked in a factory. Came out of school with no education, but I've always tried to better myself. Hence the fact that going to that gym that day, it gave me a life, didn't it? It gave me something to go for. And I feel blessed and humble that I did as well as I did.
Did you win the universe?
I mean, at 56, I took my direct access and passed my motorbike test. And I rode the bike for about 12, 15 years. And then when I was 70, I hung my hat up and said, I think it's time, and spend more time with the grandchildren. But there's always going to be something that I'll go for, because that's me. I like a fulfilled life.
This job that you do, you're a funeral director. Is it something that you just fell into, or is it something that you actually?
The lady director, which was a local lady director, she did the books, the youth club books when we were youth leaders. And when she retired from doing that, I just got divorced then, and I needed some extra money, so the council put the books up to tender, and I went to see the funeral director, and I said, I'd only ever worked in a factory. If I put in for the job, would she show me what to do? And she said, I certainly will, Christine. And she did, and within 6 months the council gave me all the books in the youth to do. they were impressed with my book work. And 3 years later, I got a phone call. Christine, come and see me. I'd like to offer you a job. And I've worked for her ever since. And that was 30, I've been in the funeral directors now for 30 years.
30 years.
I work there in the day and then at the gym at night.
One last thing, is there anybody that you'd like to thank, whether it's family, the gym that you train at, a dance teacher, a coach, or anybody of that description, and say whatever you want?
I'd like to thank all those gym owners in the 50s and the 60s who struggled to provide us with somewhere to train. Without them, there wouldn't be the gym industry today, would there?
No, they wouldn't.
And so, God bless them. God bless them all.
I really admire you, and not just for how good you've looked or how good you look now, but because you're so humble and you've given us a lot of valuable information that, it's your word. It came from, it's not on an internet, it's not on the internet, it's not on somebody's page or whatever where they've changed anything that you've said. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time out to do this, and that it's very late where you are and you're probably quite tired and you have to get up early in the morning. So, Chris, I
think I'll survive.
I can't thank you enough, and hopefully we'll stay in touch as friends. And if you ever get the notion that you would want to have something to say that we didn't cover today, happy to do this all over again with you anytime.
It pleases me that you think that, but for me, I can't see what I've got to give.
Well, you're far too humbled. You've provided a lot of inspiration for a lot of people over the years, and I'd like to think that even this is something that's going to inspire people. The information you've given us is there's a gap in the market for this sort of stuff. So hopefully this has covered a lot of things that people haven't heard of. And I would be very happy if you actually contacted me and said, John, I've got all these things I've got to say. How about we do the interview? How about we do another interview? I'd be happy for that, because I think you're a wealth of information, and today you've really held back, probably because, again, it's that confidence thing, and you think that nobody's interested in what you've got to say, when in fact, I think the exact opposite, okay? And there's not been many women that have wanted to get interviewed. You're, I think you're incredible, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you.
This video is brought to you by JohnTerilli.com, the place to go to get in shape and stay that way. There's a free trial available with no credit card required. JohnTerilli.com.